not afraid. Be strong and have courage, and be not dismayed. For I have sent thee. He said, have faith in me. In this world of darkness, don't believe what you see. For I am with thee. When you're stuck in the valley of weeping, when you're deep in that valley of the shadow of death, you've gotta lift up your eyes and look to the Lord. You've gotta trust in Jesus, and this is what he said. He said, be not afraid, be strong and have courage, and be not dismayed, for I have sent thee. He said, have faith in me. In this world of darkness, don't believe what you see, for I am with thee. Don't believe what you see, for I am with thee. When I'm in trouble, when I'm in doubt, when I'm in trouble, Jesus gonna work it out. When you feel your life is torn to pieces, and you don't know which way to run, trust in him who will not leave you. Don't stop until the race is won. When God repeats something, you better start listening. Have faith above all things that Jesus gonna work it out. When you feel your life is torn to pieces, and you don't know which way to run, trust in him who will not leave you. Don't stop until the race is won. Say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When I'm in trouble, Jesus gonna work it out. Jesus gonna work it out. Jesus gonna work it out.
Great. Thank you, guys. Go ahead and take your seats. I do want to say good evening to those that are gathered here in the chapel and to those that are gathered out there online. And in faith, those who may be watching and listening to archives in the future. This is the Children of the Free Church Ministry. My name is Charles Garcia, nicknamed Buddy Garcia. Join us as we gather here live every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. There are archives available here of the teaching on this site as well as on YouTube. I want you to get your messages into me in response to the teaching. I hope you're ready tonight. I hope everybody has their 7-league boots on, their hats tied down so they don't go flying off, because we're going to be covering a lot of ground. Last week we gave an introduction to a high intensity, in the sense of being concentrated, course of teaching on the lost tribes of Israel. Tonight there will be some review and some repeating of things we said last week, but this is a subject that bears reinforcement. This teaching, as much as any and more than most, highlights, illustrates, and demonstrates that God is in control and that He is in charge. We're going to try to encapsulate this teaching that could easily take and consume weeks, months, and even years to complete into 2 or 3 lessons, maybe expanded to 5. First off, we need to repeat what we said last week about the subject title and the subject matter. Lost Tribes of Israel is not some obscure 1 or 2 tribes lost from the tribes of Israel, which is the majority consensus when you hear Lost Tribes of Israel. But Lost Tribes of Israel as a group of 10 tribes, all of them lost to history, never lost to God. He's always known where they are, as you'll clearly see as we matriculate through the teaching. Now, way back in the Old Testament, in Genesis, God promised to Abraham, and then later He reinforced these promises to the prophet Hosea, where we will be going tonight later on, that Abraham's descendants would be a great mass of people, not some obscure, arcane group found somewhere in the world whose background and whose origin is not certain. We're talking about hundreds of millions or more people. So when we point that out and emphasize that, you can see off the bat, it isn't any of these so-called lost tribes out of the tribes of Israel. They don't qualify. Originally, the ancient Hebrews were made up of 12 tribes. A little bit later in history, there was 2 half-tribes that were joined together to complete an additional tribe, making up a total of 13 tribes. And as a sidebar, isn't it interesting that when this nation, United States of America, was founded, it was founded with 13 colonies. And I often ask, why not 7? Why not 25? Why 13? As we've studied, and recently, you study the United States of America dollar bill, you'll find it rife with 13s. Well, the 13 tribes, the original groups, broke up into two main groups that are called houses. There was a northern kingdom that was made up of 10 tribes called the house of Israel. And like I said last week, there are times when they're referred to as Joseph, because one of the founders, Joseph, had a great deal of influence. Sometimes they're called Ephraim, because the largest group of this whole group of 10 tribes was from Ephraim. And this northern kingdom went into captivity in Assyria, and their history is recorded and found in the Old Testament in the books of 1st and 2nd Kings. Then there was a southern kingdom. This southern kingdom was made up of two tribes, Judah and part of the tribe of Benjamin. This group, the southern kingdom, two tribes, was never lost. Throughout history, we've always known where they were exactly. They came to be called the tribe of Judah. Their history is recorded in the Old Testament in the 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Now this northern 10-tribe kingdom that we mentioned, these were the ones, the whole group, that were lost, in quotes, to history, never lost to God. Now, I'm sensing that somewhere out there, someone is thinking or wondering or going to think and wonder and ask, you mean all those people that were led by Moses out of Egypt through the wilderness and all that were not all Jews? No. Listen, learn, and you probably ought to write this down. All Jews are Hebrews. Not all Hebrews are Jews. Jews descended from the tribe of Judah. Judah, get it? Jews from the tribe of Judah. There was, depending on which count you want to use, 11 or 12 other tribes that Moses led out of Egypt, not Jews. Got that? For some people, it's astounding. Even some scholars always associate Hebrews as Jews. It's only partly true. You also need to know, for the purposes of this teaching, about God's priestly line. God's priestly line was begun and started with Adam, the first Adam. There was a second Adam. That's what some people refer to Christ as. We're talking about the first Adam, the one that God breathed his ruach into and became a living soul. That Adam was the beginning of God's priestly line. And from Adam, this priestly line descended through Adam and Eve's son, Seth. Now, most people, even with a cursory knowledge of the Bible, have heard of Cain and Abel. They know that Cain killed Abel. A lot of people don't know there was another son, Seth. That's where the priestly line led through Seth. And through Seth's descendants, the priestly line went to Abraham. From Abraham, the priestly line descends to Isaac, not Ishmael, who was his firstborn. And his firstborn was the product of human effort trying to fulfill God's word. But through the promised one, Isaac, who came from promise, That's where the priestly line goes. From Isaac, the priestly line descends down to Jacob. Jacob, it's important to point this out, whose name was changed to Israel. Jacob fought with an angel all night one time. He wouldn't let the angel go until the angel blessed him. And the angel could not get away. That's how tough and how strong Jacob was. Until at some point in that night of wrestling, the angel did some angelic taekwondo or something on Jacob and put his hip out of joint. And Jacob walked with a limp ever after that. But because of that whole event, God changed Jacob's name. And he changed his name to Israel. Israel means prince who has power with God. And you could see he was powerful and made even more powerful by God. Thus, the house of Israel, which comes from Jacob, was started by his descendants, the tribes of Israel. Jacob had sons. So a lot of people don't make that connection. They think Israel because of the location where they were. No. Tribes of Israel, which was what Jacob's name was changed to. Jacob had sons. 12 of them. He had them by different mothers. There was four different mothers. He had 12 sons. And these 12 sons of Jacob were special, to put it mildly. And the tribes of Israel, all the tribes of Israel, descend from these sons of Jacob. There are astonishing stories about these sons. I was teaching on a passage not too long ago on the end times where it says those that know their God will do exploits in the end times. They talk about exploits. These guys, these sons of Jacob, you'll find in the apocryphal books like the book of Jasher, stories that lay down that these special sons could yell so loud that their enemies would fall from their horses. And women would miscarry. I don't believe this is mythical. I believe this is true. And they could jump up on a 12-foot wall and whip their enemies. Jump up on a 12-foot wall. These guys were special. We named them last week. Tonight, for the purposes of study, I'm going to name them again. And you could try and jot them down or go back to the archives and listen to the repeat of the teaching. The sons of Jacob were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, from which comes the righteous line, and we'll get to more teaching on that as we progress. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, which I told you last week was special. He was special to his mother and father. He was special to God. He was special to the Egyptians. He was especially hated by his brothers because he told them he had a dream where they all bowed down to him, and it so enraged them that they tried to kill him. They dumped him in a pit to leave him to die. This is the same Joseph, by the way, that his mother made a coat of many colors because he was special. God entered in, saved him out of that pit, delivered him to Egypt, and he started a dynasty there. He got married, had 2 sons. and his two half-Egyptian sons formed half-tribes each, forming an additional tribe. But we didn't get to the 12th one. Joseph is number 11. The 12th tribe is Benjamin. Benjamin, like I said before, was the baby. He was the youngest. Then we had the other two half-tribes making up 13 tribes. Now, in and out of captivity, like I said, this tribe went into captivity in Assyria. The other southern kingdom went into captivity in Babylon. But these guys, in and out of captivity, the northern kingdom migrates slowly northward through the centuries, first under Moses, who led them through the wilderness that we're somewhat familiar with, and then Joshua, who took over, and on through the centuries until something happens in the 8th century BC. This vast horde of the descendants of the northern kingdom seems to disappear, seems to suddenly vanish to history as they're traveling northward, somewhere in the vicinity to the north of the Black Sea and to the north of the Caucasus Mountains. Where did they go? Where are they now? What happened to them? At the same time, history records that in the 8th century, at the same time, the Celts and the Scythians suddenly appear to history north of the Black Sea and north of the Caucasus Mountains. People at that time that were not known as God's people. I think they are none other than the so-called Northern Kingdom lost tribes. And so will you as the teaching goes on. Also, as this movement and migration takes place and time progresses, the Israelites came to worship other gods, gods other than God Almighty. And God likens this to an unfaithful wife turned to a whore that goes with other men. And after a certain point in time of this kind of activity and behavior, he had it. We're going to be going into the book of Hosea in the Old Testament. He's in the Minor Prophets. He's the very first book after Daniel, if that helps you find it. Hosea was a prophet to the northern kingdom, to the 10-tribe kingdom, Israel, house of Israel. I'm repeating it in different ways so there's no mistake. With all the teaching that we've done over the years and thus far, and the introduction last week, and what we're going to do tonight, things are going to become familiar to you and make sense when they're talking about house of this and house of that and north and south and all those things. Same time that Hosea was prophet to the northern kingdom, Jeremiah, the Jeremiah that wrote the book of Jeremiah, was the prophet to the southern kingdom, where Daniel was in captivity in Babylon. We're going to go to Hosea, and we're going to see how God reacts and why to his unfaithful wife, Israel. At that point in time, God had said, okay, that's it. He'd had it. Let me join you there. Hosea. Give me a show of hands if you're all there. We're going to read and teach. By the way, the sons of Jacob that we talked about, the mothers were Leah, Rachel, Zilpah, and Bilhah. Hosea 1. The word of the Lord that came unto Hosea, the son of Beeri, in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. Okay, now already they're showing a distinction and a separation here between Judah and Israel. Southern kingdom, northern kingdom. The beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea, and the Lord said to Hosea, Go, take unto thee a wife of whoredoms. Plain English, he's saying to Hosea, go marry a whore. And children of whoredoms. Why? For the land, and he's talking about the people, the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. Remember I told you they had gone and started worshiping other gods. Much of teaching in Scripture, especially now, is done through symbolism. This is the way God feels about what Israel, the house of Israel, did to him. And he's going to illustrate it by these symbols. Go marry a whore. For the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. Being a good man of God, Hosea does it. So he went and took Gomer, what a name, took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son. So circle that, son. So they could have a baby, son. 4th verse, and the Lord said unto him, Call his name Jezreel. I was taught by Dr. Scott that means scattered. Okay, we're having symbolism, and we're having what God intends to do in response. He's going to scatter them. Call his name Jezreel, scattered, for yet a little while, and I'll avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu. And listen to this. Here it starts. And will cause to cease, circle that, cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. Okay. Now, do we know who he's talking about? He's talking about the 10-tribed northern kingdom called Israel. I will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass at that day that I will break the bow of Israel. It's going to destroy their power. Goes back to the story. And she, Hosea's whore wife Gomer, she conceived again and bare a daughter. Circle that. So now there's a son, second child, a daughter. And God said unto him, Call her name Lo-ruhamah. Lo-ruhamah means no mercy. So write that down in your margin somewhere. For I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. It's going to lose them. No mercy, lose them, take them away. Cause their kingdom to cease. 7th verse, to illustrate what I was talking about earlier, things starting to make sense. But I will have mercy on the house of Judah. We know who he's talking about. A specific group, specific people. The southern kingdom, 2 tribes, Judah and Benjamin. I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow nor by sword, nor by battle, nor by horses, nor by horsemen. Well, remember this southern kingdom went into captivity in Babylon, where Daniel was and his friends. And God saved them because they acted in faith, trusting him. It wasn't by warfare, it was by their faith that he saved them. It's saying it right here. I will have mercy on the house of Judah. Save them by the Lord their God, not save them by bow or by sword or by battle or by horses. 8th verse. Now, when she had weaned, that's Gomer, when she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, which means no mercy, she conceived and bare a son. So now we have a son, a daughter, a son. 3 kids. 3. Divine manifestation just came to me. Then God said, call his name Lo-Ami. And here he nails it shut. For ye are not my people, and I will not be your God. Right in the margin, not my people. Not only is he divorcing them and getting rid of them, but they're saying here that they will not be known as his people. Tenth verse, yet the number of the children of Israel, we're not talking about Judah, southern kingdom, we're talking about Israel, northern kingdom. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea. That's the promise that he made to Abraham. He's still going to hold the promise, even though no mercy, scattered, ceased to exist, not my people, not going to be their God. They shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. If you're following me, how can that be some little arcane tribe somewhere in the desert? Can't, can it? And it shall come to pass, now he's talking about future, shall come to pass, future, our future, that in the place where it was said unto them, you're not my people, there it shall be said unto them, you are the sons of the living God. Eleventh verse, then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together. Future. Remember we taught in Ezekiel 37. He said, take a stick for Joseph. Who's Joseph? Israel, the northern kingdom. And take a stick for Judah and tie them together and make them one stick. Again, he's talking about future. And they shall become one stick. There are prophecies in the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah 3, where it says in that day, in the end times, that Judah and Israel will walk together to the land that God has promised them. So now we know how and why God, quote, lost, unquote, that northern kingdom. Right? He said he would scatter them. He would not have mercy on them. He would lose them. They would not be his people. A vast horde of people, ultimately, even then, but not known as God's people. But God had plans to bring to pass his major plan for the ages that was set into play or set into motion long ago. It's described, by the way, in the stars above us, thrown up there 16 billion years ago, moving, spinning, orbiting, wobbling, moving away, moving towards, different size heavenly bodies, different speeds, all in motion, yet showing images up there, laying out God's plan for the ages, all the way from its beginning, Virgo, the Virgin, all the way to Leo, the lion of the tribe of Judah, where it ends, all up there in the heavens. Down here, God had what I would call a triple redundant plan. He had a plan A. Not the first plan, but the most known plan, which was the Exodus by land, when Moses led the 13 tribes out of Egypt, through the wandering in the wilderness, until that 8th century that I told you where they vanish. There was another Exodus. Most people don't know this. Those that are well taught do know it. I mentioned it, I believe, last week. And in proper use of the language, Exodus ending in a U.S., more than one would be exodi, right? I kind of joke about that, but it would be an exodi. There was another exodi, or exodus, that we'll call Plan B. This Plan B exodus took place in ancient Egypt. Now, I don't mean ancient Egypt in that it's ancient to us today. I'm talking about in Egypt's antiquity. Ancient Egypt. You follow me? In ancient Egypt, there was a group of people that ruled in Egypt that were not Egyptians. They were called Hyksos. Hyksos translates to shepherd kings, or sometimes foreign rulers, neither one of which to me sounds like Egyptian pharaohic leaders. Does it? Shepherd kings, foreign rulers. They ruled in, I think, the 15th to the 17th dynasty, way back in ancient Egypt. They left Egypt or were forced out, depending on which historian you want to ascribe to or follow. They left by sea. And they are carried with them royalty north by sea, landing in Ireland, Scotland, and Britain, taking ancient God's people, or Hebrews, with them, and starting, I believe, the basis for Druidism, and starting a race that came to be called the Picts, Picts, which were warriors, fierce, unbeatable warriors that painted their faces and painted their bodies, and had some ancient Hebrew customs. I want you to file that for later reference. This other Plan B Exodus went by sea much earlier than the Exodus that we're aware of, that Moses took out. There was a third Exodus. Only this third Exodus is more like a mini migration, but it may be the most important of these exodi in its own way, really. We'll call it Plan C. So there was a main plan, Plan A, the Exodus by land. There was an alternate plan, Plan B, that went by sea. And there was a backup plan. Did I say B, C? That was Plan B. There was a backup plan that was Plan C that also went by sea. This one went from Babylon. Remember, that's where Daniel was, and Jeremiah the prophet. And in those days, the king of Judah, the southern kingdom, was Zedekiah, who was in captivity under Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. And they were fighting between themselves, Zedekiah and Nebuchadnezzar, back and forth fighting, bickering, until Nebuchadnezzar had had enough. When he said, that's it. And he so surrounded Zedekiah, captured him, killed his 5 sons, put Zedekiah in chains and brass fetters, put out his eyes, and this was all, and putting parenthetically, by Satan, to end the Davidic line. Because God had said, and he had made a promise to David, that as long as there's a sun and moon and stars in the sky, one of the line of David would sit on the throne over Israel. So Satan said, end the line. And that's what Nebuchadnezzar was trying to do. But God entering in, Hebrew law had a loophole in it. And the loophole stated that if there was no male heir, the bloodline would pass on through the daughter. Jeremiah, the prophet in that area at that time, took the daughters of the king, Zedekiah, the royal line, out of captivity by sea. He took with him his scribe Baruch, and he took certain artifacts with him: a harp, a horn, a stone, and an ark. And, like I said, the daughters of the king. Now, ancient Irish traditions records that a prophet came to their shores that they called Olam Fala. And Olam Fala had with him a scribe named Simon Brock. Jeremiah and Baruch. Brock. These artifacts that he took with him are reported to be the harp, none other than the harp of David. The horn of David. The stone that he carried with him was a stone that came to be called Jacob's pillar, or Jacob's pillow, sometimes called the stone of destiny, stone of scone, where all the ancient kings of Israel had been crowned, the same stone that was carried through the wilderness by Moses and the people, same stone that via Ireland, Scotland, and today sits under the coronation throne in England. Same stone, where all the ancient kings of Israel were first crowned, the ancient kings of Scotland, or Ireland, and then Scotland, and then England have been crowned. Same stone. The ark if it was the ark, and there are people who believe that it was, then it's in Ireland and not somewhere in Arabia where Indiana Jones is going to try and find it, with the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'll give you 2 guesses. First doesn't count to who these people are and where they came from. I, along with Dr. Scott and others, think that the West, as in Europe and the Americas, were settled by descendants of the so-called lost tribes of Israel, fulfilling God's promises that they would be like the sand along the seashore and like the stars in the sky, amongst other promises that these descendants, would possess the gates of their enemies, which they've done, and there's more. Lots more. Now what's God doing here with this subject? Moving nations and moving people to bring to pass his plan and what he said. Back when I was teaching on God's message in the stars, I often asked. When I was teaching on God's witness in stone, I often asked. And I ask it again now in view of just the little that we've had tonight. With the God that can do all that, you think he can handle your problem?
Yes, sir.
Your problems? Think he can heal you?
Yes, sir.
Provide for you? Protect you?
Yes, sir.
You bet he can. In faith and for faith, he will. And that's my message tonight. And it's offering time. For the offertory, we're going to have, well, I believe we should trust in him. Give a few seconds while the band gets organized. And then we'll have a few closing words before our theme song, and we let you folks go for the week.
I'll trust in you when my road ahead is rough. Have faith in you when I feel I've had enough. When I'm going through the darkness, still I won't come soon enough. When I don't know what to do, I'll trust in you. King David said, there are valleys we all face, blessed men go through. They live from strength to strength. When I'm feeling bruised and broken, Jesus whispers, child, have faith. When I don't know what to do, I'll trust in you. For faith and trust, you give me peace and grace. You sent your son to die and take my place. Your greater plan I cannot see, but I know in you I'm safe. When I don't know what to do, I'll trust in you. I'll be faithful through and through. I'll trust in you. trust in you.
All the music tonight so far has been homegrown. All the songs have been written by our daughter Maeva, and all songs tonight have contained essences of the teaching that we do here. We're going to continue this teaching. We covered a lot of ground. I hope I didn't overwhelm anybody. We will be getting to some details in certain vital areas in the next couple of lessons that you will find fascinating, and I hope that the foundation that we've done, foundation teaching here, is starting to make sense when they're talking about houses of and so on. And just looks like we've got another year, unless the calendars are way off. But we're going to take a few weeks to cover this ground and then get back to some other essential teaching. We might launch into something like Stonehenge, or go back to the pyramid, or back to the stars, interspersed with basic faith, teaching on giving, and all that we do here. That's our life's blood. So you out there, you in here and you out there, stay in faith. That's the only way you're going to make it. It's the only way that you're guaranteed to make it, and you are guaranteed as long as you stay there. So let's do our closing theme song.
Well, I searched and I searched for a road that led to glory. I wondered if I'd ever find my way. I was so dismayed, for the road, it seemed so lonely. But then I heard a voice within me say, you've got to keep on walking, keep right on walking, walking in the light of the Lord. You'll get to heaven someday. You can only get in the faith way, walking in the light of the Lord. Well, I faithed and I faithed, and the Lord, He gave me mercy. I faithed and He brightened up my way. I sat down to rest, for my feet had grown so weary. But then I heard a voice within me say, you've got to keep on walking, keep right on walking, walking in the light of the Lord. You'll get to heaven someday. Can only get in the faith way, walking in the light of the Lord. You've got to keep on walking, keep right on walking, walking in the light of the Lord. You'll get to heaven someday. Can only get in the